One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to Better Horses. We are the team. We are the Better Horses team. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we get to talk all about the equine industry and what's going on. Merle, how are you? Glad you joined me.
I'm doing great. You know, it's hot here in the Midwest, and we wouldn't expect any less for August, but that's the way it goes.
You know, and we'll prove that point by the amount of guests that we have. We're going to go all over the country again, and we're going to talk all about the equine training. And I'm actually excited about a couple of our guests. And we're going to start off in Florida at Ocala. Palm Equestrian Academy with Lynn Palm. Now, I got to tell you, Merle, you and I talked about this once, but I don't believe we've ever had a clinician that is an all-around trainer, a showman, and an exhibitor, and she's also an entrepreneur that has the amount of resume that this girl has.
You know, if we took all the time we needed to read her resume, we wouldn't have had a chance to interview her.
And you judged with her, so you know this firsthand.
Lynn. Yes, she's a very neat lady. I'm excited to have her on the show. Our next guest is Jim Persinger from Dakota Mac Finance. And we're going to look forward to talking to him about how new people without the lineage of farming in their background, how they can get started into whether it's a horse program or a farming program, corn, cattle, whatever it is. I'm looking forward to talk to him.
You know, it's that next generation that do not have that generational wealth that they want to get into farming and ranching that Jim's really going to be able to shed some light on. And I think that's going to be very, very important. And you know what? We talked about her, and she was on our TV show, and we've watched her at the National Finals Rodeo. She's a qualifier, and she's basically going to give us an update of what she's doing this year. Lucinda Rose from Willard, Missouri. She's an all-around barrel racer, and she's going to give us some tips of what it's like to do some barrel racing.
We've got a very diverse show today, Ed. You're not going to want to miss this.
You know what? But before we get started, let's slip it over to Mark Alpert, who's going to give us, and what he does every week, a segment on better cattle. So, Mark, why don't you tell us what's going on in the cattle industry?
Well, Ed, things get a little more interesting here in the cattle and feeder cattle trade as we move into August. Hard to believe that we are in the 8th month of the year, but here we are, watching the futures react to the spike that we saw here late last week, and where October live cattle, October feeder cattle may settle from here. October cattle above the 188.5 level took us back to mid-October of last year. If you really want to get bullish here and take a look at numbers, you have to go back to around September 20th last year, when those futures, October, topped 194. So a number to watch if indeed this would continue. Now, October feeder cattle, they've really bounced around in a fairly predictable range, really, since mid-January. 265 on the top side, 255 on the bottom. And we don't see that range really being violated very much from here. In fact, suggests a better chance, if anything, might move higher from here toward the end of that range in early August. Now, of course, demand, always a key. Top export customers continue to be almost in order: South Korea, Japan, and China. And on the supply side, we did have that cold storage report last week. A monthly report, it showed total meat in storage over 905,000 pounds. That was down 2% from a year ago. You take total beef, 410,000, down about 1%. Total pork, 471,000 pounds, down a little over 3%. So we're drawing down frozen meat stocks, but we don't think that's going to accelerate with consumer food budgets pretty well stretched. And with that, we conclude with the Federal Reserve. Now, they don't meet in August, so all eyes are on their September meeting. You can put this on the calendar, September 17th and 18th, and there's nearly a 100% agreement on Wall Street and other analysts that there'll be an interest rate cut at the end of that meeting on September 18th. We will watch for that. And with that, we wish you a profitable week ahead.
And appreciate it, Mark. Always giving an update on better cattle. Hey, I wanted to take time out and also introduce our Better Horses tip of the week. We're going to be going over to Windsor, Missouri with Matt Jobe. Matt, take it away.
Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Better Horses today. My name is Matt Jobe, and give you a horse tip today. So I'm training a 2-year-old colt right now for myself, and one thing I really like to do on a horse is get them loping. I believe a lot of things can be fixed at a lope, and I believe that they can't get better at loping unless you lope them. And so I like to work my way up, but I like to set a timer, whether that be 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, work your way up, and I will lope in the left lead. And so let's just use 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to lope in the left lead. I do small circles, big circles, small circles, big circles. I don't get out of the left lead. When my alarm goes off, I stop, get a few breaths, and then I'm going to set my alarm again. I'm going to do the same thing in the right lead. So you may have to start with 2 minutes, but then, like I said, gradually work your way up. So then I'm going to lope 5 minutes in the right lead. When that's done, then I'm going to begin the rest of my training. At first, all I care about is loping in the correct lead. Don't really care where I'm going, small circles, big circles. As I progress, then I'm going to be picky about my lead departure. I'm going to be getting them bridled up, getting them soft in my lead departure. And so that's just some few things you can do, but get out there and get loping. Set your clock so that you know how long you're loping. Get out there and work on each lead. Get your horse loping.
That's our Better Horse tip of the week. Merle, it looks like we got to get started.
Yeah. Well, I always want to thank Matt. He's a good friend and no stranger to us here at Better Horses.
All right, so stay with us. We got more Better Horses coming your way. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
And welcome back to Better Horses. We are the team talking to you all about equine. And in this next segment, we have Kleinschmidt's bringing you back to this great Western store in Higginsville, Missouri, providing Midwest Western apparel and almost the highest quality of everything that you need as far as gearing up, Merle. And they've been in operation since 1969.
Yeah, you're going to want to check out their short sleeve shirts this week. It's a warm one here in Kansas City. And you can reach them on the web at www.kleinboot.com.
You know, Merle, we talk to a lot of clinicians on this show, and we get a lot of information, which is really great. So to all our listeners out there, this is going to be really important for you to listen to because this doesn't cost you a thing. And this lady has got more of talented background and really an impressive resume. We're talking about Lynn Palm, and Lynn Palm is with Palm Equestrian Academy in Ocala, Florida. And I don't think, Merle, I don't think there's any other clinician today that has the performance record that she has. She's an all-around trainer. She's a showman. She's an exhibitor. And she's an entrepreneur. I mean, a first-class reputation all the way around. But before we get her on board, I want to let everybody know she's a 34 AQHA World and Reserve champion. She's a 7-time dressage American world champion. She's a 4 super horse championship. I want her to describe that. And also over 50 bridalistic exhibitions with her horse, I'm sure legendary Rugged Lark, including an 89 World Cup and a 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. She's a judge. She's been Horsewoman of the Year, and she's a World Cup educator and entertainer and a World Dressage judge. Everybody help me welcome Lynn Palm. Lynn, welcome to Better Horses.
Thank you so much. It's a real treat to be here with you guys and your listeners.
You know, I got to tell you, I know I didn't do justice on your resume. You have an impressive resume all the way around, and thank you for joining us. But I got to tell you, this is interesting because you're teaching the academy, which is the first thing I want to talk to you about, Palm Equestrian Academy. You have riders at all levels, all breeds, Western, dressage, English. Walk me through that.
Yes. And that's why it's probably my third name in business and how my business has graduated. But under the Academy umbrella is, yes, of course, my husband, who his name is Cyril Pichon Rosalone. He's French, and he's got a fabulous educated background. He's a jumper rider, and my background is dressage riding. I grew up in that saddle, and those principles and classical training. For me, it was easy to make all-around horses, and he does dressage between the jumps for the jumpers, hunters, equitation riders, and so that's one phase. But we've been in a training business, of course, but education has been more of a highlight of our business, as well as a business that does sell horses. We do competitions. My husband doesn't compete anymore, but I still do. And then we also added to our business. Of course, my husband, because of his wonderful background and passion of his country, France, and he's a history buff, he's put together some fabulous trips to Europe. And of course, France is one of them, and Ireland and Italy are the 3 countries we've done. And we've done that for a little better than a decade, and taking small groups of 6 people, and everybody's got some kind of a horse background. But so that's kind of umbrella the academy, meaning that we do a lot of different things within our business. But the education is, where we're at really right now in this part of our stage. And 53 years, that's why I've got a resume like that. I should have one.
I remember when we judged together, Lynn, that you were talking about those European journeys, and I thought that was a really cool way to see Europe, because it's a little overwhelming. I've been there and judged, and I know you have. And but when you go by yourself, you kind of feel a little lost,
Yeah, you don't know the language, and you don't know where you're going, and it's all different. And when you can go with somebody that knows all the ropes, and all you have to do is enjoy everything, boy, it becomes a fabulous time. And of course, when you have small groups, we have as much vacation as we are working to do the job. So it's really fun. And now we're not really trying to do it anymore, because we're trying to retire, of course, when you get to an age and start weaning yourself away. But if somebody came to us and say, hey, we got a group of 6 people, will you take us to France? I don't think we'd say no, because it's too much fun.
You dive into English, Western, and dressage, and you also deal with recreational and competitive all alike. What's the biggest transition when you walk from different countries into versus the United States? Is there a big training difference, or do you feel like we're all on the same page?
Well, it depends on your discipline. There's good and bad riding in any discipline. I can assure you of that. But I know that especially most of my travel to Europe, and especially with the education, has been more with Western riders, because they love the Western. But the one thing that I find different is they have more of a solid horsemanship or equitation background. They have some fundamentals about riding. Where places I go in the United States, people don't even think, do I need to have a correct position for why? For balance. What sport can you do and do it well if you're not balanced? So we got the hardest sport because we have a moving object to work with all the time. But if you don't have a good position for balance, you're always going to have troubles. The Europeans, you don't have to do that. They know that. That's just one little example. So we do one of our events we call Winning Ways. I came up with a competition education 4-day event, and we've done it twice now in Italy. And those Italians, they take their reiners and get their heads up. They do their Western horses all go in a nice way, but the ranch horses fit in right with it, and they do the Western dressage, and they all get along. But they have some fundamentals about riding. So you can teach them to do the different disciplines if you got to change a few things.
Yeah.
So that part I find is different than most of your Americans. They don't have the good background of good horsemanship.
Yeah. Well, and Lynn, we could not have you on the show if I did not ask about the horse that probably is synonymous with you for eternity. And of course, we're talking about Rugged Lark. A lot of us know and we've read it and we've watched it on YouTube and we've seen it. But for those people and our viewers that haven't seen it, can you tell us a little bit about Rugged Lark and how that came to be with Carol Harris?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I'll say with Carol Harris, I went to high school with her two daughters. My parents, there, of course, were in Ocala, and I grew up in Sarasota, Florida. And my parents sent me to this school that they were going to because they had a riding program. It was my senior year of high school, and that's how I met Carol, through their daughters. And of course, she had this big, fabulous, beautiful farm here in Ocala, breeding horses everywhere, and had the race horses and quarter horses and cutting horses and a little bit of everything. It was wonderful. So it was, I don't know, maybe a few years later, after we graduated and I was starting to ride professionally, she called me and she wanted to send me this horse. She said, you have to be careful. He's a little tricky because he can turn on a dime. And he says, I just want you to be careful that he doesn't get you off of him. Well, I got the horse. I was getting along with the horse, and maybe about after 10 days, he did one of these quick maneuvers where it was kind of a spook, but he did make a quick spin. And of course, I ended up on the ground. That was the only time I did. But anyway, I was successful with this horse. And there was my first time with Carol Harris where she was seeing what I did with a horse. And he was really a horse that he was sensitive, that's all. And she bred a lot of the appendix quarter horses with the thoroughbred and quarter horse cross. So, I have a good feel with those horses. I'm very patient as a trainer and rider. And so I get along with them well. I was successful. And then we went on there. I rode horses for her for 48 years. And
Wow.
Rugged Lark came along, and she had lost one of her stallions. I think it was Majestic Dell. And he was a halter, kind of all-around bred stallion. And so she was looking for one, and she tells this story to me, and it's kind of cool, but she woke up in the middle of the evening when she was asleep, and she says, why am I looking for a horse? The one I want's right here. And that was Rugged Lark. He was bred at her place. She didn't own him. She didn't own the mare, but she owned the stallion, Really Rugged, who was a thoroughbred. And he was a plain bay, but beautiful head and those big eyes that he had. And so she ended up buying him from the owners, and that was Rugged Lark. So she sent him to me as a 2-year-old. And I started him, and she had a resident trainer. I didn't start him under saddle. Mike Corrington did, very fabulous trainer. He was specialized with reining horses. And so when she sent him to me as a 2-year-old, I knew this horse was special. And why I knew he was special is that I would be riding him every day, 5 days, 6 days a week, always a day off. But, bring him along as I do all the young ones, and very slow and patient. And he kept retaining his lessons so good. And I have to go, Lark, you shouldn't be doing this so good yet. And I'd have to stop and put him up and pet him and go put him away.
Wow.
He just always was a good student.
Huh.
And he made me a better rider. And the better I rode, the better he did. If he made a mistake, I'd always reflect back to myself. And it was something with my position and balance, how I cued him, his position. And when I put those easy fundamentals together, I mean, he'd be as consistent as he could be as long as I was riding him light and in balance. And there you go, exploded.
I think the great ones actually do. Like you said, the great ones make you a better rider.
They do. They absolutely do. And they're always a willing horse. They're not trying to not please you. And, as long as you can read that, sure, you can go past a point and they get fatigued, and then they're going to start saying, I'd like to go back to the barn or whatever,
Right.
You always have to read that. But that was the biggest thing. And I would call Carol and I'd say, Carol, and then this would be the other side. And I say, Lark isn't doing what I wanted to do. He was doing it so good, and then all of a sudden, now he's not doing it well. And you know what she'd always say? She said, Lynn, do nothing. Do nothing. Go graze him, go groom on him, go for a trail ride, turn him out, and don't do anything for several days.
Huh.
And I'd go back, and that goddamn horse would do exactly what I wanted him to do.
That's amazing.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Lynn Palm at Palm Equestrian Academy, and she's joining us from Ocala, Florida. Lynn, I got to tell you, before we get you off this, we want to talk to you about, I know you've been at the Atlantic Olympic Games. We've got the Olympics going on right now. Your first thoughts at how we're doing, how we're looking. I don't know if you're keeping up with it or not.
Oh, of course I am. You betcha. I was just watching the dressage between riding a couple horses this morning. So there you go. Yes, very involved.
In wrapping this up, if you had to coach any of the people that are getting into this industry and getting into horses for the first time, and I love your academy because you're taking recreational and competitive people all at the same
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
What's the one message you want to give out to all our listeners about getting into this industry?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the horse is suited to the person, their level of knowledge and skill as a rider, how much they can participate with the horse, and somebody that's got a good common sense, easy approach to teach good horsemanship, or you got guidance. Any sport, you need to have an instructor, you need to have a coach if you want to do better and learn how to do what you want to do with your horse, whether it's having a successful, fun trail ride, or it's a competitive ride, or if it's something in competition. You have to practice it with your horse. You just can't have the horse and go do what you want to do. It's not going to happen. So you have to have a guidance, and an eye on the ground is essential. I guess there's two things that I tell people in evaluating a horse before they buy one and as they have one. And the two most important things they have to answer these two questions with a huge yes. And the first one is, am I safe? And I'm having fun. Because if you're not feeling safe, you're certainly not having fun. But those two things, if you're safe on top of that horse, you feel safe. And if you're having fun with what you're doing, then the horse is suited for you.
Well said.
Don't buy a young horse that's not broke and you're learning how to ride. Wrong.
That
just doesn't work.
That is well said.
Yeah.
And we can't thank you enough for coming on board. And these interviews are real quick. You're an all-round trainer, a showman, exhibitor. We appreciate you coming back. We have to have you coming back. But more importantly, Lynn, we want to thank you for everything you're doing with horses and in the equine industry. And if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the first thing they have to go to?
Oh, easy. LynnPalm.com website gives you all our information. You can contact us. I get all the emails. I address everything that comes in, and our schedule's there, where we are, what we're doing, when we're doing it. There you go. So thank goodness we have those today. So LynnPalm.com, and then you can find us.
That's great.
And yes, please have me back. I've got so many good stories to tell, and I'll tell you a good one about the Olympics too. Everybody keep watching because it's amazing, that competition, and the athletes and the horses are just amazing.
They're phenomenal to watch. Lynn, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We're going to schedule more time. We've been talking to Lynn Palm at Palm Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida. And Merle, we're going to take a break real quick, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about the economics of ag loans. We'll be right back. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
We'll be right back right after this. And welcome back to Better Horses. You know, Merle, just talking to everyone about clinicians, about horses, gets us all excited about everything. But, you know, there's kind of an economic business side to everything we do.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, and I think this is something we're going to dive into on this next segment. But before we get started, hey, I want to let everybody know that this segment is brought to you by our John Deere dealer, Heritage Tractor. Now, listen, Heritage has got locations in Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. And if you're looking for any type of tractors, implement mowers, or anything like that, be sure to check them out at heritagetractor.com. Appreciate their sponsorship. And Merle, you know, we talk about this next guest that we have coming on board is a kind of an economic type approach of what we do with the next generation. We all have generational wealth. We're talking about farmers. We're talking about ranchers out there. And you always have to ask the question, what about the generation of kids that do not have that generational wealth and they want to get into cattle? They want to get into acreage. They want to get into farming. Where do they go? What do they do? Well, my next guest is from Dakota Mac Finance. And Jim Persinger has been with them for a very long time. If you want to know what MAC stands for, it's Mortgage Agricultural Company. And these guys are really good. And Merle, this is why I got these guys on board. They're really good about getting that next generationally financially healthy and give them really good business tips on how to get ag loans and competitive rates into a secondary market. To all our listeners out there, this is not a commercial. We are actually going to talk about the economics of ag. Welcome aboard our Vice President of Production Officer over there at Dakota Mac Finance, Jim Persinger. Jim, welcome to Better Horses.
Glad to be with you, Ed.
Hey, Jim, I don't know if I teed you up enough, but I think the audience needs to know that you and I were talking about that next generation of people coming up. And I want to set up two scenarios for you. One scenario is these farmers that have generational wealth, taking it down to their kids and their kids' kids, but those kids don't want to stay in farming or agriculture and they get out. Conversely, the kids who do not have generational wealth and they're trying to get into it. And you are with a company now that really concentrates on providing in the Midwest ag loans for these teams and really sets them apart. What sets you apart is you really get into the agribusiness. And you've been doing it for quite some time. Can you walk us through that?
Certainly, Ed. We really enjoy working with the youth and the next generation of agriculture. And we utilize the FSA Farm Service Agency loan programs. We combine them with some of our conventional products, if you will. But two of the primary products we use with FSA is their down payment program, where you have a 5% down payment that the borrower has to make. And then it's a 45% direct loan, and then a 50% bank-provided FSA guarantee loan that would, in essence, gets them a 95% loan on typically the real estate, ag real estate they'd be purchasing, and usually is their very first initial land-based purchase, if you will. And then the second program we use is called the Joint Financing Program, and it is a 50-50 program where the young clients can get actually 100% financing, and whereby the 50% of the loan is offered direct by FSA, and then the other 50% is offered through, in our case, First Dakota National Bank via a FSA guarantee on that loan. And both of those loan programs, they offer tremendous interest rates. And in fact, the 50-50 FSA loan can be as long as a 40-year term loan. And then the 545-50 loan offers a 20-year term. But their interest rates are such that it really helps these young couples or individuals have a pretty good fighting chance to get started in single-digit interest rates, if you will, and longer terms to move forward with their operation.
Because we talked about cattle prices, we talked about land prices. 20 years ago, you could almost buy Iowa farmland for $500 to $1,000 an acre. Now we're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 an acre. So we're talking a whole new dynamic of getting a next generational farming team together. That's the changing, especially cattle too. So you're becoming more and more valuable in the Midwest when it comes to ag loans.
Certainly the capital cost of agriculture today, especially in land, and like you're mentioning, Ed, livestock and equipment, it is significant capital outlays. And for these beginning operators, they need longer terms and they need lower interest rates to give them a chance to cash flow profitably. Because in the end, they have to be profitable to forge on into the next generation and build their ag operation up to a what I will call a viable unit. And oftentimes they do have some off-farm income. Either one or both spouses have off-farm income. In some cases, it's custom income where they're using some equipment and they're doing a lot of custom work for area farmers and ranchers. And then a lot of times we'll see these young operators, they'll trade their labor, if you will, back to their parents' operation or their grandparents' operation in exchange for use of some of the grandparents' or parents' machinery and equipment usage, which is a really nice lead-in for them so that they can at least have the equipment that they need, but then they avoid the debt payments and debt servicing and upkeep on equipment that's out there. So that's oftentimes a good way to help get them started. And then as they grow and become more and more profitable, they can start purchasing their own equipment over time, rather than if you have to look at purchasing large amounts of equipment today. It's just not viable economically to generate enough income to make the kind of debt servicing that would be required on the purchase cost of that equipment.
And Jim, I think you bring up a really good point that said, it's kind of a partnership with you and the lendee or whatever you'd say, because if they're not profitable, you're not going to get your money either. So I think it's good that Dakota Mac has an outlook that, hey, let's figure this out for the both of us and work in our both best interest.
Certainly, and we really operate from a platform of it's got to be a win-win relationship. I mean, that client, they need to be successful. If they're successful, our bank, our department's successful, the community's successful, and that just ripples effect through the local communities that we service, if you will. And it's really rewarding to me, especially after many years of experience in ag banking, to work with these young operators. I really enjoy seeing frankly, the quality of youth that's out there, the capability, the intelligence, the expertise that some of these young operators have. They just need to have the financial structure put in place for them. And many times they can really perform quite well. Just give them a few years to get started and let them show you what you can do, and they can really go at it, if you will.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to the Vice President and Production Officer, Jim Persinger at Dakota Mac Finances. They're one of the top 10 ag banks in the nation, and you've built a portfolio of $800 million in secondary market loans. And what you're putting together is a solution for the next generation to come out and really get financed to stay in the ag industry, which is something so important that I believe. What are some of the challenges, Jim, that you're seeing? What are some of the obstacles or headwinds that these young guns are going out there, getting their loans, getting them set up? You and I both know in cattle and in the farming industry, Mother Nature plays a part in this too.
Yes, certainly risk management is a big item, and we can attack some of that from the clients purchasing crop insurance and certainly their property insurance and some of those types of risk management coverages. But there's always several ways that things can go against us, but you've got to have some of that, specifically crop insurance, to mitigate some of that risk going forward. It's just a very risky business, if you will, when you include Mother Nature in the program.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of the Midwest. I get it. We've all been there. We've been farming for over 15 years, and you're going to hit one bad year. And I think having a financial institution behind you is so vital to the day-to-day. You are, especially on a personal note, you like to work with young teams that are getting into the agricultural industry. Tell me what your thought processes for all our listeners what's your thoughts on this next generation coming up?
I'm very bullish on the next generation. The skill set that they have, the technology that they have at their fingertip to monitor and produce crops and to raise livestock, it's amazing what all we have in technology. And this youth, they know how to use it. They kind of grew up with it, and they find ways to use that at a profitable level for their operation. Oftentimes, much easier than maybe the older generation did, but they find ways to be profitable. And when you have to add off-farm income in some cases, they do that for a period of time till they can get that operation larger. But in the meantime, they use everything at their disposal to be profitable, to the best of their ability within their individual operation.
Jim, we appreciate you coming on board. If somebody wanted to get a hold of Dakota Mac Finance, how would they get a hold of you?
They can certainly call me here in my office. It's area code 308-284-3260. And once again, my office is here in Ogallala, Nebraska. And we can certainly be happy to talk to anybody that has any interest in any type of ag financing.
That's perfect. All right, Jim, we appreciate you coming on board, and thank you again. We'd like to have you come back. If you want to check out more information on Dakota Mac, hit dakotamac.com is their website. And Jim, we appreciate you coming on board and talking more about agriculture. Merle, we're going to take a break real quick. I want everybody to stay with us. We're going to have one of the best National Finals Rodeo qualifier and breakaway roper, Lucinda Rose, coming up next. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service. That's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. Wow, what a great show coming up. Merle, this is going to be a fun show because our next segment is brought to you by the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. And those guys really know what they're doing out there.
Yes, be sure to check them out. If you've got a horse, you're specifically lameness, they've been really researching and developing that program.
You know, these universities are doing a great job because, you know, we're always having lameness issues. And what a great segue. And I really planned this, Merle. This is how good I am. What is on our next guest? She was a national finals entrant, and she's a qualifier too with the NFR. She's a barrel racer. She's also one of the persons that hit a circuit. We're very proud to have her on our show, Lucinda Rose. Lucinda, welcome to Better Horses.
Hi, thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate you coming on board. A qualifier, breakaway roper. You're kind of doing it all out there in Willard, Missouri. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And you've been out there for a while now. So tell me how your barrel racing going. You've been doing this for a while. Can you give us your background on how long you've been doing barrel racing?
I've been barrel racing since I was a little girl. My parents basically raised me on the back of a horse and turned me loose when I was pretty little. And I've been blessed to be in the presence of some better horsemen and pick up from them and hopefully continue to pick up everything that I can.
Now, I want everybody to realize out there that when you talk about Lucinda Rose, you're thinking she's about 15, 16, 18 years old, but she's a mom of 4 and she has a daughter. I think, don't quote me on 18, but she's a teenager. And you have your daughter, Josie,
Actually,
and
20. Yes.
Oh, 22. Okay, so she's no longer a teenager.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the day, you have a full family here, and what's really impressive is that you are still competing out there, and you are still out there just doing it with all of these great horses that you have.
Yes. Yep, I sure tried.
Tell us about Real Deal, and tell us about the horse that you've trained and that you've ridden on.
Well, Real Deal, our Murata's Real Deal. He is my number one horse, but he's getting up there, 16 right now, and I just cherish every run. So I make sure that every run counts, and I set him up for the absolute success. I don't run him just anywhere, because he'll do anything that I ask him to do. The biggest hearted horse I've ever rode.
Our viewers may or may not know, but we're all from Missouri. And of course, we're pretty proud to be Missourians, and we're from the Show Me State.
Yes.
I think it's very interesting that you are one of only 2 women that have qualified from Missouri for the barrel racing at the NFR.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you make the finals at the NFR? Tell us about that process.
Sure. Each year, the top 15 barrel racers in the United States qualify for the NFR in Las Vegas in December, and top 15 meaning money earners in the professional rodeo. So that is no small feat, and to be the second one from Missouri is also a big accomplishment.
So you're out there, like when you were really hauling that year, how many rodeos a month would you hit? Would you hit 4? Would you hit 8? Like, what's that look like?
A lot more than that, actually. By the end of the year, I think I went to 70 rodeos that year.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really understand the life of a barrel racer and what it takes to actually get through there. And you talked about your Real Deal and how great he was. Talk about how many horses do you have to take when you're going through the entire process of a year? Do you have more than 1? Do you have 5? How much are you training?
Ideally, you would have 3 to 5, but that year I had him, and then I borrowed my daughter's horse to fly back to make some circuit rodeos. So he carried the huge bulk of the rodeos that year. But you would like to have more to spread them out. But that just goes to say how much heart he had to run and win and get that many checks that year.
And his earning level was over 300,000. Was that correct?
That's his lifetime earnings.
His lifetime earnings, correct. So a main mount like that can really credit you, and you really get to rely on that horse. But taking 4 or 5, there are times that you just have to grab another horse and get out there and compete. Is your training the same with every horse? Is it just, what are some of the things that you have to be virtually ready for when you're changing up horses?
I would say my training is similar but not the same, because each horse is a unique individual and they have special needs and different backgrounds. So you need to figure out what they're thinking, feeling, how you can get the most out of that animal, and they still be, a good whole horse at the end of the day.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to the National Finals barrel racer, Lucinda Rose. And Lucinda is located in Missouri. And she's now asking us the question, at the end of the day, your tack has got to be the most important thing that you're dealing with. Talk to us about what kind of saddles you use, and qualifying for the barrel racing, how important that is when you're running those speeds.
Oh, absolutely. I use Coates saddles. I think they're the best. And Larry Coates is phenomenal to deal with on my horse's needs. They sit on top of a CSI pad, so I know my horse has the best movement, and that saddle is not, if I mess up and the saddle isn't quite right for that horse, at least I know the CSI pad will take some of that off.
You said you went to 70 rodeos that year. Did you have a favorite, and what made it your favorite?
Oh, wow. When you get to go to the Northwest, it is so special in the summer. You get out of this humidity, this hot, and get to see the mountains and the sights, and the people are so excited. I love going out to the Northwest, to Pendleton and Cheyenne and up in Montana. It's just the scenery. I could live out there, I'm pretty sure.
With so many rodeos you go to, I have to ask you this because everybody talks about footing when you're dealing with barns and indoor arenas and things of that sort. What's the first thing you do when you approach an arena and that you're about to run in? Do you look at the footing or do you put a lot of faith in the operators?
There's a lot of reputation that goes behind that. Like, how was it last year or the year before? Do they care enough to get somebody else in? That if they don't know, and that's fine, just get somebody else in that does know and that can make that ground safe for our horses. For sure, look at the footing, because if my animal gets hurt, then, especially that year, then I would have been done. He's one of those that can stand up on ground that is not ideal, but I sure don't want to ask him to do that, to do something that's more than, that could risk his safety and mine.
Sure. Got to ask, and I've heard this about barrel racers. I'm not sure it's true, and that's why we're having you on, maybe to dispel some myths. Yeah. Is it true that all barrel racers must be cremated because the dirt is never good enough?
I've heard that. And it makes me giggle. I'd say most of them. Oh, that was awful. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, footing is important. Now, talk to me about this horse tragedy that you had back in 2023 at the Great Lakes Circuit and what happened there at the year end.
Right. That tragedy was my up and coming another mare that I had raised that was supposed to take over Real Deal's job. She had an aneurysm and died with me at my house when I was getting ready to rope on her. And that was, I wanted to quit after that. It just took the heart right out of me. I don't know. It wasn't in God's plan. So he just kept placing horses in my path, and people were calling me for horses to ride. So now I have a barn full.
I think mental health is critical there. And that's really, you really overcame that. And I think you're going to talk to a lot of people that have gone through that. So I think that's a lot of credit on your part to keep going, even though that was a big obstacle to overcome.
Yes, it was.
Lucinda, I have to ask you, home life, training, getting up there to speed. So what's your facilities look like at home, and how much do your kids participate in helping you train?
They participate quite a bit because my oldest, she'll take care of the horses and ride the ones at home when I'm gone. And she's very savvy and very good, knows exactly how I want them taken care of and ridden, and pays attention to detail, which is really important to me. And the next daughter, Josie, she watches the little kids when I'm at home. I have a son who's 11 and a daughter that's 7. And so I can't always be outside all day with them. The little ones, I have old horses for them to ride. They haven't exactly just asked to ride every day, but I'm hoping that hunger they might see how much work it is for me. And maybe they're like, well, maybe not every day.
Well, you're answering the question. Can you do it all? And I think you just answered it. Yes, you can do it all. So, hey, we want to thank you for joining us here on our Better Horses Radio. We'll also let everybody know we appreciate you joining us on Better Horses TV. We hope to have you come back and talk more about what's going on with your barrel racing. And, I just consider it just a delight to have you come on board. And as Merle mentioned, us Missourians, we got to stay together.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. We really appreciate Lucinda coming on board. And what's really interesting, Merle, we didn't have a chance to talk about it, but the horse she was talking about, Real Deal, whose total earnings was $300,000, which is really impressive, but he's a big part of their breeding program.
Yeah, I think she's had that horse a while, and it's a testament to her care of that horse that he's still 16 and still running like he is.
Her husband, Adam, is still a PRCA tie down and team roper. And so that whole family just really nice to talk to. Hope to have him back on the show. And, Merle, I think that's going to wrap us up. And I want to remind all of our guests out there that if you want to listen to this episode, you can still check us out on our podcast by just wherever you get your podcast, hit Better Horses, and you'll be able to listen to all of our shows.
And don't forget, our summer edition newspaper is out. Look for it in your local feed stores or hop online, fill out the form. We'll be happy to send it right to your mailbox.
Right at betterhorses.com. Check out the summer edition. Good point. We got some really great articles, and we want to thank all of our trainers and clinicians out there for writing those articles for us. But more importantly, we want to thank all of our sponsors. And if you want to subscribe, just check us out at betterhorses.com. You can also check out our YouTube if you want to see RFD or the Cowboy Channel on our Better Horses TV portion, and also Equus TV.
We want to be sure and give a special thanks to the team behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, and our TV producer, Kelly Creech. And of course,
all our sponsors, right? Yeah, we got to give them a plug too. Okay, that wraps it up. Merle, appreciate you joining me. And I want to let all those good buckaroos and buckarettes out there mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.